Rocketeers, written by Jill Saint, a fan film based on the Rocketeer from 1991. Fade in. On a world that feels like a Hollywood nightclub from yesteryear, cigarette girls with victory rolls in their hair walk by us, mingling with square-jawed soldier types in uniform, in for some R&R. As we wade through the cigarette smoke and hear the sounds of a brassy big band playing the night away over the speakers, for a brief second it feels like we're right back in the 1930s, until an elderly couple walks up to a uniformed army guy.
Take our photo?
Yes, ma'am.
And the old lady hands him her iPhone as she poses with her wrinkly husband. The iPhone flashes and we widen out to reveal we're actually inside Interior World War II Flight Museum, present day, continuous. A Golden Age aerospace exhibition. And our text on screen confirms the setting. Los Angeles Flight Museum, present day. The elderly couple rejoins their tour group, and we realize the cigarette girls are actually costumed tour guides, as are the soldiers. We pick up with one tour guide, mid-sentence.
The year was 1938. The place, Hollywoodland.
Our modern-day tourists stop to take pics and admire. Archival photo displays of a few familiar faces. Movie star Neville Sinclair on a few vintage movie posters and on a few Nazi propaganda posters.
Actor Neville Sinclair is first at the box office, but third in the Reich.
We get some polite laughter from our tour group on that one. Then we see crime boss Eddie Valentine in mugshots and newspapers.
Infamous gangster Eddie Valentine runs the LA Underground with his Tommy gun.
And finally, we see black and white vintage shots of a young pilot standing proudly by his biplane. We recognize him as Pilot Cliff Secord.
And up in the sky? No, it's not Superman. It's a young pilot named Cliff Secord.
And our tour group begins to buzz with excitement as they encircle a special object inside a protective glass case.
Or, as history would come to know him best,
One tourist, Charlie, a suspicious-looking 20-something, pushes his way to the front to get a closer look at the helmet inside. We recognize it immediately. That bronze finish, that aerodynamic fin on the top, it's the Rocketeer's helmet.
the Rocketeer.
Is that the real one he wore?
I read somewhere online how you can make your own. It's easy.
This is a carefully reconstructed replica, modeled from Howard Hughes' personal schematics for the design. No one really knows what became of the Rocketeer's actual helmet. Rumor has it, it's hidden in the vault of a wealthy private collector overseas.
As the tour guide continues her spiel, we see Charlie stealthily break away from the group. He pulls a handheld infrared device, no bigger than a keychain, from his pocket. He sneaks around a partition, and for the moment, he's all alone. Interior World War II Flight Museum, different room, continuous. Inside a room dedicated to the jetpack. Yes, that jetpack, the exact one the Rocketeer used. It's under a glass case as well, and under surveillance. Charlie stays calm, keeps his head down, and aims the infrared pocket device at the security cameras. We see the camera's lights get knocked out one by one. No one's watching. Time to get to work. We get a quick montage of Charlie in action. With the tactical precision of a master thief, we see Charlie break the seal on the glass case, deactivate the alarm by cutting a few specific wires, gently lift the case up, and pour rocket fuel into the tank of the jetpack. Our montage ends with Charlie actually putting the jetpack on. He takes the throttle controls in hand and looks up, just as the tour guide leads the group into the room, proudly announcing,
The jetpack, however, is the real deal. Oh my God!
the group gasps. The tour guide radios for help.
Security, we have a robbery in progress. Rocketeer exhibit main hall.
Charlie slips on a pair of flight goggles.
Thanks for the tour.
Charlie presses the ignition on his hand throttle and the jetpack roars to life. Exhaust flames fill the room as he flies straight up through the ceiling, sending debris and dust raining down on the tour group. Alarms sound, lights strobe, and through the hole, we see Charlie flying through the sky above, leaving a jet stream behind him in his wake. Exterior, the sky, flying with Charlie, same. As Charlie rockets through the air, flying like a bat out of hell through the clouds, the headwinds ripple his face, his hair blows every which way, and he's clearly having the time of his life.
Woohoo!
Cut to newscast on TV, showing footage of the museum in the aftermath. We're treated to a mixture of blurry surveillance footage of Charlie and B-roll of cops setting up a perimeter outside the museum. The news anchor hams it up in his best primetime voice.
Houston, we have a big problem. That's what government officials are saying today after an unidentified thief, seen here in security camera footage, flew away with a priceless rocket pack that once belonged to the Rocketeer. A statewide manhunt is in effect.
Please don't let it be Charlie. Please don't let it be Charlie.
A hand turns the TV off as we widen out to see we're actually interior Secord garage continuous, in the shop of a mechanic named Lex. She hurries down an aisle surrounded by old vehicles under tarps and scattered engine parts, but the propellers and huge wing shapes tell us these aren't cars she's fixing, they're planes. Lex peeks through the back window of the shop, seeing what looks like a meteor making landfall out in the field. After a beat, the shape gets up and sprints towards us, heading for the garage. It's clearly a man, with a jetpack on his back.
Shit. It's Charlie.
Interior Secord garage, modest office area, later that night. Lex is fuming as Charlie sets the jetpack down and cleans all the soot and grime off his face with an old rag. They fight like family, because they are.
Jesus, Charlie, I didn't think you were serious. I thought it was the beer talking.
It was now or never. I couldn't let the Russians get their hands on this too. How's that helmet coming?
Lex shakes her head, unlocking a safe box in her desk drawer. She pulls out a homemade Rocketeer helmet of her own design. It's modest, but well constructed.
I shouldn't be doing this. You know every cop on the West Coast is looking for you, and it's only a matter of time before they're knocking on my door.
Charlie admires the helmet, ignoring her.
You did good, sis.
It'll do for a short while, but it's not even close to the integrity of the original helmet. Hugh's composed a symphony building that thing. It's nearly indestructible. This one is, well, very, very destructible. Watch your head.
I always do.
A beat.
Do you think Grandpa would be proud of what you did today, Charlie? Stealing?
That got Charlie to look. His eyes go to old family photos on the wall of, you guessed it, Cliff Secord. We see him age through the pictures until we get to see him as a grandpa to two precocious grandchildren, who we realize are Charlie and Lex.
I think, if anything, he'd say it was borrowing something for a good reason. And he'd say families should stick together. And now he'd say, you can't stay mad at your brother forever.
Lex looks up at her brother, cracks a smile.
And he'd also ask you to do me one more teensy favor.
Hard cut to a crash test dummy, sitting in the cockpit of a crop duster right outside of exterior Secord garage, same, Lex's hangar.
I can't believe you talked me into this. Igor's my best crash dummy.
She sets up a remote flying device so she can pilot the plane from the ground via an iPad, similar to how people fly drones. We notice Igor, the test dummy, has a crude homemade rocket attached to its back. Charlie steps out of the shadows, suited up once again with the jetpack. He holds Lex's Rocketeer helmet under his arm.
Just make sure you aim him that way.
I know which way the Pacific is, smartass.
Charlie slips the helmet on, and for the first time, he looks like the new and improved Rocketeer.
How do I look?
Like a hood ornament.
That's what I was going for. Good luck, kid.
You too, safe flight.
She hugs him, then steps back as he presses the ignition button on his handheld throttle. A burst of flame, and the jetpack once again blasts him upward, zipping him up through the starry sky. Lex enters the coordinates for the Pacific Ocean into her iPad, and we see the crop duster take off on its own, with Igor behind the wheel.
Igor, my old buddy, you are go for launch.
On Lex's iPad screen, we see a notification pop up that reads, Remote Rocket Activated. Interior Air Traffic Control Tower, later. We see a blip on a radar traveling fast. An air traffic guy talks to the cops who flank him.
We got your bogey, boys. Looks like he's flying over the Pacific Ocean. Radio air support. How do you know it's not a plane? Planes ain't that fast. Do it.
Copy. Aerial unit. This is Tower PD. Come back.
Other cops and ATC guys crowd around that one radar, ignoring a radar board in the background marked Atlantic. Those radars also have a fast-moving blip, but no one seems to notice. But we do. The blip moves even faster before dropping off completely from that Atlantic radar board, and we dissolve to exterior black sky, Russian airspace, morning, the Rocketeer, soaring like a silver bullet through thick black clouds against a gunmetal gray sky. Text on screen lets us know it's another overcast day in Moscow. From a heroic close-up of the Rocketeer's helmet, seeing clouds reflect off the visor, we cut to the original, authentic Rocketeer helmet, the very same one Cliff Secord wore 80 years ago. It shows its age, but maintains its beauty. It sits out in the open and under lamps on a stylish display inside. Interior, Valentina's vault, continuous. A state-of-the-art antiquities vault owned by Valentina Oromov. the matriarch of one of Russia's largest crime families. Her bodyguards aren't far. She stares at the helmet like a jealous lover.
Was it my rocket?
No. All the Americans found was pieces of an exploded jet engine in the wreckage. Old plane, old tech. They even used a dress mannequin, to trick the police.
Seacourt's grandson grows more clever.
They still haven't identified him. CNN doesn't know who the new Rocketeer is or where he is going.
But I know where. Ready, our pilot. Tell him his test flight just moved up.
Interior boardroom, Valentina's offices. Later, we move down a long conference table where dangerous men, business tycoon types, and various underworld figures await their guest of honor. A door opens at the other end of the room for Valentina. She enters, holding the original Rocketeer helmet in front of her like an idol. The men all rise to salute her before taking their seats once again.
Gentlemen, behold the future.
Valentina presents the helmet.
I fail to see how a mask can tell the future.
Not a mask, but what's inside of it.
The men all direct their attention to a flat screen at the front of the room. It shows a diagram of the helmet in a scientific breakdown. That explains the chemical composition of the special type of steel used to craft the helmet. Apparently, it's unlike anything the men have ever seen before. The room is speechless.
With this and the rocket, we will be unstoppable.
Exterior, abandoned refueling station, day, establishing. Charlie, still in Rocketeer helmet, ducks under an industrial caution sign written in Russian. Thankfully for us Westerners, it has an English translation printed on it as well. Government property. Keep out. Charlie ignores that and sneaks inside. Everything's nice and quiet until a loud whoosh cuts through the silence. It sounds like a jet engine landing nearby. Charlie turns to see the unthinkable. Another Rocketeer, just as he touches down.
You must be security.
But the evil Rocketeer stays silent. He is suited up in high-tech Russian military-grade body armor. The uniform is new. The prototype jetpack is new. But his helmet is antique. We recognize it right away as the original Rocketeer helmet from Valentina's collection.
Maybe we can talk about how you got that helmet.
The evil Rocketeer stalks slowly towards Charlie. With a flick of his wrist, a high-tech anti-aircraft gun telescopes out from his jetpack, armed and ready to fire. The aiming scope slides into place with a click.
So much for the friendly skies.
Rat-a-tat-tat-tat-tat. The evil Rocketeer fires 1,000 rounds in an instant, causing Charlie to make a run for it, ducking, rolling, and finally, hitting the button on his throttle. Charlie's jetpack blasts him skyward. The evil Rocketeer powers up his jetpack and soars after Charlie in hot pursuit. We follow above the clouds and along the jet stream of the evil Rocketeer. Once he takes aim through his scope, we see Charlie right in the crosshairs. Evil Rocketeer fires. Rat-a-tat-tat-tat. But Charlie doubles back, performing a spinning aerial to dodge the bullets. Tiny artillery bursts pop all around him.
Let's see if you can fly as well as you shoot.
Charlie changes course, tucking his arms back and dive-bombing back towards Earth, back towards the refueling station on the ground. And he flies inside the hangar. With split-second timing, he flies low, dodging old construction equipment and fuel pumps. Charlie hits a passing beam with his hand as he rockets towards the exit, causing it to come unscrewed and fall. Just as the evil Rocketeer appears in the hangar, trying to match Charlie's flight pattern. He narrowly dodges a crane, but sees the falling beam just as it's too late. Wham! Evil Rocketeer collides with the falling beam as it crashes to the ground, sending him spinning out in a spiraling twirl of exhaust fumes, until he crashes through the hangar wall at top speed, his body skipping along the pavement like a rock. His limp form finally skids to a stop, right at the boots of Charlie, who's landed safely and is standing tall above his opponent. He removes his own helmet and tosses it aside before getting in for a closer look at the evil Rocketeer. Specifically, that helmet. No doubt it's his grandfather's helmet, his birthright. Charlie unhooks it and pulls it off the guy, who we see is nothing more than a badly scarred Russian soldier, knocked out cold from the hit. Charlie surveys his grandfather's Rocketeer helmet, tears welling in his eyes as he holds it in his hands for the first time.
Time to take you home.
Blam! A single gunshot startles Charlie out of the moment. He looks to see, at the outer fence, a convoy of trucks and Russian soldiers with Valentina at the lead, smoking pistol in her hand.
Welcome to Moscow.
She signals, and her army of men burst through the fence, running towards Charlie. Charlie puts on his grandfather's helmet, and we're now looking at the true Rocketeer. Original helmet, original jetpack. So badass. It's a triumphant moment as Charlie takes the throttle in his hand, preparing to fly to freedom. But the jetpack sputters, that familiar sound of a motor turning over with no chance of starting.
Crap. I'm out of gas.
Charlie starts to panic as Valentina's army is gaining. They start to open fire. Bam! Bam! No other option. Charlie looks down at the evil Rocketeer and grabs onto his collar, activating his throttle. He hits the ignition, and whoosh! Charlie uses the evil Rocketeer as a means to get away, his jetpack zipping them both along the ground at 100 miles per hour, away from the bullets and straight into the hangar, where Charlie releases the throttle in time to slow down before he smacks into the other wall. Charlie unhooks his jetpack and confirms what we already know. The fuel gauge is on E. He drops it and starts wrangling the evil Rocketeer's pack off his limp body. Outside the hangar, with Valentina as she pulls her bodyguard close.
Remember, I need the original helmet and the original jetpack. Neither must be harmed. We need Hugh's designs or we have nothing. Make sure your dogs know not to shoot it up.
Off his nod to her, we're back inside the hangar with Valentina's soldiers charging in and finding no sign of Charlie. Just the unmasked evil Rocketeer lying on the ground without his jetpack. Before they can radio Valentina, they hear that familiar Rocketeer whoosh overhead, and sure enough, through a hole in the hangar ceiling, we see Charlie, the Rocketeer, hovering above the roof, wearing the evil Rocketeer's pack. He has the anti-aircraft gun aimed squarely at Valentina's men. The scope clicks into place, and their eyes all widen at the same time, like, oh shit, as Charlie lets them have it. Rat-tat-tat-tat-tat-tat. Empty shells rain down and gunfire destroys everything in its path. Valentina's men are forced to retreat, running for their lives. They all swarm the doors, running back for the fences, and we see the fire behind Valentina's eyes. She hears another whoosh now and looks up, just in time to see the Rocketeer blasting off through the clouds, dip to black. For a beat, before gently fading back up to interior Secord garage, different day. As Lex works away repairing a plane engine, when she hears the garage door opening. Startled, she looks up to see Charlie walking up, in his Rocketeer gear, proudly holding the original helmet under his arm. Lex smiles. He hands it to her, and her admiring look says it all. Lex walks the helmet over to the wall, where a family picture of old Cliff Secord with young Charlie and younger Lex hangs up. James Horner's Rocketeer theme gently begins to play as she sets the helmet down on a shelf underneath the picture frame.
All this trouble for a family heirloom.
Well, trouble's kind of what our family does.
They share the moment, then smile.
I was starting to worry. Thought you'd be here sooner.
Well, my fight time shifted. That tends to happen when you're carrying extra weight.
Off Lex's confused look, we cut to exterior field outside Secord garage, moments later. Charlie leads Lex to a shady area where bulky items await under an old tarp cover. Charlie pulls back the tarp, revealing the evil Rocketeer's jetpack and helmet. Lex's eyes widen. She knows what this means.
I mean, we have 2 jetpacks now. Seems like a waste to let one of them just sit there collecting dust. What do you say? Up for a flight?
Cut to black. End with title card, Rocketeers.